I am your host, Nicole Will, and we thank you for joining us as we navigate the world with your aging loved one. We are here to come alongside elders, family members, and the senior living community as we explore the world of aging and elder care with helpful resources, informative interviews, and approachable conversations. We get to do this together, so join us on our journey, and this is the willGather podcast. As Jo Bregnard talks about, essentially we are living two lives, one of our own and one of the person that we are caring for, physically acting as the body for your loved one. How exhausting is that, and how do we actually keep up that pace? We don't without really caring for ourselves. Today, I interviewed Jo Bregnard. She is a cancer survivor and a caregiver. She is certified in yoga, Thai bodywork, and Reiki, and really brings her story and her experiences into our conversation today and how she can help caregivers support themselves with yoga and everyday self-care practices. You don't want to miss it. Here's Jo. Today, Jo Bregnard is with us. Thank you. We had such a fun conversation a little bit ago, and I'm so happy that you're here with me today and sharing all about your story and self-care and family caregivers. And I think we'll cover a couple of things, but welcome.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I'm so glad to be here with you. You do a wonderful thing with your podcast and talk to some great people, so I'm honored to be here.
You so much. We talked a little bit about your story previously, and it has really impacted where you are today, what you're doing. Can you let our listeners know what that is? How did you come to this place?
Yeah, it was a long road, and I didn't expect to end up here like so many people. My husband and I got married in 2001. And in 2002, he was injured in a pretty severe accident at work. He was burned. And he was in and out of the hospital quite a bit with that surgery, follow-up surgeries. And it was, that's a new thing for me. I knew nothing about burns and taking care of somebody. And I had to learn about how to change burn dressings and all of the extra stuff, the emotional stuff that comes along with somebody who's been burned. So that was kind of my first foray into what it's like to be a caregiver and watch somebody else help somebody else go through some things. That happened in the early summer of that year. So it was a year after we were married. In the fall, he happened to be home between surgeries, and we were outside walking around, which we hadn't done in months, because we had been at doctor's appointments and at the pharmacy and all the things you do when you're sick. And we were walking around our neglected garden, and I was talking to him, and I was gesturing with my hand. I talk with my hands, and I touched my heart, and I felt a lump in my breast. And I said, oh, well, I'll just have to get that checked out. I'm certainly not going to deal with that right now. So a couple of months later, I went for a checkup, and it was malignant. So thankfully, my husband was home recuperating from his surgeries and things. So he was home and he could take care of me when I went through my mastectomy and chemotherapy and my treatment. So that I got to see kind of the other side of it also. And I kind of thought that was it, that we had gone through all our stuff and that was going to be good. Lesson learned, we're good. And actually, as part of my recovery from breast cancer, I went to a movement class taught by a dance teacher. And it was like to get us moving to help with recovery. It was really well done. And that's when I really started to appreciate and enjoy moving to help myself feel better physically as well as emotionally. So I dabbled a little bit in yoga over the years and really started to find a practice after that once I was better. So several years went by, and then my husband, once again, came up with some heart issues, real severe heart issues. He had been having some silent heart attacks, went in for a checkup, routine checkup, and I believe the nurse said his EKG was upside down, was the way she worded it. And quadruple bypass valve replacement later. everything was going okay. He was going to come home, and he ended up coding before, the day before he was going to come home. It was really scary, talk about loss of control and just feeling helpless. So he got a, implanted pacemaker and defibrillator, came home. I was doing my thing again because I knew how to do it. I knew how to be a caregiver. And, everyone was encouraging me, get back to class, get back to walking, get outside, you have to do something for yourself. And I said, no, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. And when I finally, like months later, got back to class, it was just so nice to be on the mat and have some quiet. And I understood, it'd been a real physical practice before then, and I was into the workout piece of it, but that's not what I needed. I just needed time for myself. I just needed a little break to catch up with myself. And so that was really healing and wonderful. And then in 2016, my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Yeah, so my dad, it was one thing after another. My dad was doing great. They were both in their 80s, and he was healthy and taking care of her. But around 2019, end of 2018, he was having trouble managing on his own. So I was still working full time for a municipal light department, teaching on the side. By that time, I had gotten my yoga certification. So I took FMLA time and was going down there to help him when I could, once or twice a week. And was really blessed and honored just to be able to take care of my mom like that, help take care of her like that. And she ended up passing earlier this year on New Year's Day, January 2021. But so through this whole process, which was so much stuff, really, when I was traveling back and forth to Connecticut, traveling from one state to another, Massachusetts to Connecticut, multiple times a week, I was, wanting to get to a studio, wanting to go for a walk, wanting to do things for myself. And there was just no time, but with all that stuff going on. So I would say, I'm going to get into my room at their place and I'll listen to a meditation, or I'll do something. I was exhausted or I couldn't sleep. No matter what I tried, nothing was working. So I realized it couldn't be time for a drop-in hour-long class or a weekend away out of vacation. It needed to be built into my day, which was mostly in the car, maybe a few minutes in between here and there. And I didn't know what that was going to look like, but I felt like there's got to be a 5-minute breath practice I could do, a way that I could close my eyes for 3 minutes behind this bathroom door while my dad's, making my mom lunch. And, he just came home from his errands that I was taking care of her during, that I could catch my breath and get recentered again. And that's really what I wanted to build for other folks too. These practices that they could do at any time during their day, sprinkled throughout their day, things that worked for them, that were a variety of tools, depending on what their day was like, whether it's energizing or relaxing. And then ways to help them fall asleep with, a nice guided meditation at night. So that was what I realized that people needed, not a big, strong movement practice that took an hour to do. So that's really what I wanted to share with people, because that's what was working for me when I started to do that, sitting in the car, before I ran into the grocery store, to just feel my feet on the floor of the car, and catch my breath for a moment or two. That's really what filled me back up during those sprints that I had to make.
Oh, so much. And you really lived it and you were in it and it's in your story. And that's why it's so powerful that you created it now, because you know how helpful it can be. And family caregivers have so many, needs and challenges. What are you seeing also with people that are caregiving? What are some of those needs and challenges? I know you mentioned a couple, but if we walk through kind of what that looks like.
So I kept feeling like I was living two lives, right? So I would make my 2.5 hour drive down to my parents, And then I was in their life, right? I'm making the phone calls, I'm getting the groceries, I'm preparing the meals, I'm living their life. I'm doing whatever they need to do. And it's all about what's going on with them. And then I get back in the car the next day, drive back. And sometimes I'd like get back to my house and say, oh, like I wouldn't remember what was in my refrigerator. I wouldn't remember what was on my calendar, because to really make that shift back and forth is difficult. You really are living two lives. If you like don't want things to fall through the cracks, which you wouldn't want to do for your loved one, right? So it's so much that you're carrying around in your head in terms of keeping schedules and appointments and stuff. And like emotionally, right? Such a roller coaster, depending on the news that you might be getting or things that you're keeping track of. And then, physically, you're physically, acting as the body for, in some cases, for your loved one, running, whether it's from one room to the other or running errands or things like that. So this idea to me of like you're living two lives, how exhausting is that?
Barely keep up with the one.
Exactly. Yeah.
I liked how you said we are acting as their body for them. I've never heard that sentence before. And it's so true, which is why caregiving is physically draining. You're not only taking care of your own body, but you are supplementing maybe the ways that your loved one is lacking in the things that they can do, and the lifting and the taking care of all of those details.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I sometimes I think we say, oh my gosh, I'm a caregiver, but like I sat on the couch and watched my loved one or all day, or, I didn't leave the house the whole time. It's not like I, ran a marathon or something, but how many times did you go back and forth, to the bathroom, helped them to the bathroom, back and forth to the kitchen? I think we just don't realize the impact of all of that extra stuff that we do. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't. And when you said we don't even realize it, it also fits for, I think a lot of times we are caregiving and we don't even realize that we're doing it, like, in the sense of we don't necessarily use that formal title of I am a caregiver, right? We're daughters, we're wives, we're parents, and it just is a part of what we do. But if we had to formalize it, that is exactly what that is.
I'll tell you what, I have had the hardest time with this word with people. My very first weekend retreat, specifically for caregivers, and I noted that. Two women came who were not known to me previously, and their husbands had bought the retreat for them because they saw yoga retreat. Oh, our wives would like this. And we were doing introductions right at the beginning, going around saying what sorts of things we did. I have a lot of people that are teachers that come to me, and I can talk about that in a moment too. So there are a lot of, they were hearing introductions from all these people. And this one woman, she's looking around and she's, looks like she feels very uncomfortable. And I got to her and she said, oh, well, I don't think I should be here. And I said, well, why do you say that? And she said, well, I'm not a caregiver though. And I said, oh, well, what do you do? And she said, well, I'm an emergency room nurse. And I said, you're a caregiver. And she said, yeah, but I don't have a person that I care for, a loved one or anything. And I said, teachers are caring for somebody else. Parents are caring for somebody else. Whether if you have a friend that's going through something and you're supporting them, you're caregiving. Whether you're family or not, there's all these different categories of caregivers. And it's so hard for me to use that word because I feel like people self-select and they say that's not me.
It is. Is there a better term, or do we just have
I've been saying
more? What are your thoughts?
people who care for others.
Mhm.
It's more words. But yeah, I don't know. It hasn't really come to me yet. It's challenging.
'Cause I think we do, as as a society use caregiving in a term for, right, that more formal caregiving role for an older adult. Do you feel like that's kind of where that term lives? So then
I think
on all of the, right, I'm a parent, I'm caregiving. If you're a nurse, a teacher, a nanny, like you said, there are so many ways in which we do that.
yes. And for sure now with things like the internet and groups that we can join, we can get very specific and niche down into, parents of autistic children or something like that, that where of course we'd feel more comfortable and have more in common with those people. But certainly we all share a lot in common, all of us who take care of somebody else in some form or fashion. Yeah, I know.
What do you think of the term care partner? Have you heard that used?
No, I like that.
Yeah, it seems to be with certain different organizations that work with persons that have dementia. So we're seeing that term used a little bit more where it is that partnership of care, that collaboration together. It is not as well adopted as caregiving, right? That's what seems to be more universal. So I do tend to use that so that I'm right, not isolating out those people that might not know what a care partner is. So
Yeah. That's a beautiful term though. I do like that. And I'm trying to think back during the time when so I was helping my dad traveling back and forth and I was saying, Dad, you really need somebody here because I could see that he was starting to struggle. He was saving up his errands until I got there and my mom's showers and stuff, but it was getting harder for him to bring her to the bathroom and stuff. And I said, let's get somebody, let's get a nurse. Doesn't, can be a couple times a week or whatever. And, he didn't want anybody. But I wonder, and he finally did get somebody, and it was only a few months before it was time for her to go into a home. And my mom was in a home for about a year and a half. But I wonder if that term were used, if that might make it a little more acceptable or a little more, it's a little softer or something. Yeah.
it's more of like that team approach.
Yeah,
It is.
exactly. Yeah.
Caregivers need to really carve out time for self-care. We know that that is so vital and important, and we hear that term a lot, right? It's kind of this word that we see and we don't maybe always know how to define it. What would you say is self-care and why do we need it? Why is it something we should make time for?
So, the actual definition would mean something along the lines of, physically, mentally, and emotionally being able to take care of yourself without outside help, which when you hear that, then you go like, oh, that's interesting that I'm a caregiver and I take care of somebody else. So I think in a way you should be the person that says, oh, I get that. I should be able to do that. But somehow there's this gene thing in people who are great caregivers that they just feel like, oh no, I just give. I love this. This is what I do. I'm built this way. I don't need to receive anything. But you do. And a lot of times caregiving gets lumped in with bubble baths and massages and vacations, which are wonderful if you can do that. But for somebody who is caring for somebody else, they often say, right, I don't have time. I am afraid, this was me, if I stop, I won't start again. If I slow down, I just won't have the energy. I won't want to go back. I won't have the energy. I just got to keep going. But we know that it's not sustainable. We can sprint when we need to sprint. We can, especially when it's a family member or a loved one, somebody known to us. We can do whatever is needed. We'll rise to the occasion. But to do that and not break down yourself, long term, it's just not really possible. So the idea is, because with caregiving, we don't know in a lot of cases if our person is going to get better, if they're going to decline quickly. Will they go into a facility where my responsibilities ease up a little more and I can do these things for a short time, but for a long time, it's going to be too much for me. So this is where self-care comes in. And again, not in feeling guilty that you can't do something longer or fancier for yourself, but instead, how can I incorporate little moments already into my day, my existing day, not making big shifts, but making shifts that are important and that you can feel, that will make you feel a bit better and more supported in your role. That's really what I think it's all about.
It is. And we don't need to overcomplicate it. I think we want to. We think it has to be, like you said, massage or vacation or these things that take a lot of time. So then we just don't do anything at all. And
Exactly.
that's not what we need to be doing. And, there are simple ways to add self care into our day. And you've got some really good thoughts on what that is and what people can do.
Yeah, I mean, breath is one of my favorite ones to go to. And again, there is no need to complicate this and learn a fancy way to breathe, because you're here and you're breathing and you've been breathing and it worked okay so far. So you just need to keep doing that. I remember taking care of my mom. Sometimes the only less than a minute that I got where I wouldn't have my eyes on her, moment to myself, was when I would go to the bathroom. If she was situated in front of the TV, maybe she was dozing a little bit, I knew that I could run to the bathroom, and I just, close the door behind me, 2 feet on the floor, dropping into my body. That's my other favorite one, where I can feel my feet on the floor. And I can feel that, yep, my heart's still beating and I have my breath, and taking, one full inhale and one full exhale. I don't need to count it. I don't need to hold it. I don't need to do anything fancy, but just feel it. And, if you have time for more, that's even better. And sometimes, just, okay, I had that time. I'm going to take one, go to the bathroom, and I've got to get back out to the couch with her. But I can even now, especially since she's dozing, or maybe if she's able to feed herself, I can sit on the couch and right next to her still have the sensation of feeling my feet on the floor, my sit bones on the chair, on the couch, and feeling the breath as it's moving through my body. So that, once you kind of take the time to feel that, so that's a practice you can keep going back to during your day, sprinkle it throughout your day, between your tasks, when it comes into your mind, again and again. And the more practice you get with that, the easier it will be to kind of go to that place. And you may feel like a wave of relaxation come over you when you do that. And that's all you're looking for.
It is. You talked about there's those benefits and movement of the diaphragm. What are some of those?
Because there are many important structures that go through the diaphragm. There's a massaging effect as we breathe that happens, of course, whether we know it or not. We don't think about our breath nearly as much as we probably should, but that's the great thing, is it still works even without us thinking about it. But this massaging effect happens on the vagus nerve, which is the nerve that can help control our relaxation response. Really important right there. The diaphragm, it's a sheet of muscle that separates the abdominal organs beneath it, and the heart and lungs kind of float above it on top. So there's this little massaging effect that happens to the heart and lungs also. as you breathe as well. I mean, it's this beautiful, almost like a wave-like motion that happens. So in addition to that, so I mentioned the heart, your abdominal organs below, when you inhale and your diaphragm bows down, and you might notice sometimes that your belly presses out some, and you really fill up. Your abdominal organs all get a massage with your breath. So, if you're having any kind of digestive problems, that nice, relaxed, deeper state of breathing can help massage those organs, can help keep things moving there. And just this rhythmic action of this breath has this effect that, like, as you mentioned, starts at your diaphragm, but then just kind of reaches out to all these other places throughout the rest of your body. It's really beautiful.
So beautiful. I've never heard it explained in that way. I think of the diaphragm and know it's in that general area, but did not understand all of the intricacies that it does and is helpful. I, as you were talking, was thinking of what a beautiful meditation that could be to picture your diaphragm and the movement and affecting the heart and the abdominal. Like it just is so. It sounds like it's a beautiful process.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And that would be a great meditation. And so your breath work, we call it that. It's really just your breathing that you're sprinkling in throughout your day. Maybe, if you have an extra moment or two, you picture that while you're breathing, while you're having, a quiet moment of breathing. And yeah, I mean, the more you can drop in, because what happens when we caregive, caregiving is like out here, right? It's at the end of our hands. We're preparing food, we're filling prescription bottles, we're doing things like that. And it's up here, we're making appointments in our head. And it's really up here up around our head when we're anxious and we're upset or nervous about something. So it gets very like externalized and out there. And what the breath work can help do, and dropping into the body, is bring it all back to your center. And that's the place where you're thinking more rationally. I used to say, I got this. I'm gonna go, I go here, I go here, I go here, I run this errand, I'm gonna pick these things up, then I go there, and I'm all scheduled out. Don't talk to me, I got this. But if I can slow down a little bit and find a little space in between those things, I'm even more focused when I go in the grocery store, and I don't forget why I went in there. It's not like this checkoff thing. I'm in it instead of just, going through the motions.
Right. There's something to be said too about when we create that calm state about us, right? Through the breathing or finding those moments where we can be and have a little healing, that is then reflected back to our loved one. Can you share more about that?
Yes, I mean, you're right on. That is absolutely true. I mean, if you've ever trained an animal, a dog, how they can pick up on our feelings, it's the same thing, obviously, with another person. I think sometimes we think of people with dementia and Alzheimer's that they don't know what's going on. Oh, yes, they do. And they can certainly feel our moods and hear our tone of voice, which, with your breath work, you can tell when your voice is strained and these muscles on your neck are tight, where your breath is moving through. And it's a different experience when things are relaxed there and your breath is flowing freely and your voice isn't so strained. So, in addition to your voice dropping in a little bit in tone when you're more relaxed, and your loved one picking up on that, the fact that you're not, running laps around, wants to, first of all, I think the people we care for, they might be embarrassed they're having to have somebody care for them, or they feel like they're a burden, and there's lots of feelings like that. Having somebody circle around you, throw food at you, and I mean, that would be horrible. So if we can move through the spaces that we're sharing with our loved ones with a sense of calm and compassion, that is absolutely being reflected, that this is, a space of reverence and a partnership, right? It's not, I'm doing this thing for you, we're together, we're experiencing something together. Yeah.
Use the practice of gratitude in that space as well. I think we hear about that, and that can be as we're right in that space of reverence with our loved one and compassion, finding those moments of gratitude.
I think you can't feel or think about, I can't think about the word gratitude without this sense, this slowing down sensation that comes over me. And yeah, a sense of, it's more than respect. It is this sense of reverence and appreciation. And, some of us, we've taken up the idea of gratitude journals or writing down what we're grateful for. And it's not just, how many different things I can list down, because there are some days as a caregiver, there's not much, right? It's a hard day. It's a hard job. In a lot of cases, you didn't ask to do this. It's something it fell into your lap as a family member unexpectedly, not at the right time, because it's never the right time. So take that one thing and that you were thankful for or grateful for, and really think about it and figure out how you maybe can expand it and hold on to how you feel when you think about it. I mean, really, when I tell people about my story with me getting my diagnosis right after my husband's surgeries, it was challenging, and it was hard to deal with, but I was so thankful that he was home. I mean, I couldn't get beyond that. That was the best thing ever.
Hard timing of it all, you could see that that was a blessing at that time.
Right. Right. So it's in there. We just have to find it. And I mean, I know my mom comparatively was, easier than a lot of patients can be. She wasn't, never got to the stage of being violent or yelling or anything like that. But there were challenging times. She was one of these people who fell a lot, and to keep her safe and not walking around so much was really hard. So yeah.
Everyone has a different story. When I hear from some family caregivers, their challenge is that their relationship with their parent wasn't always a healthy relationship. And so, right, it's how do you get to that place of reverence when you're feeling really conflicted about how you feel about your loved one? That can be hard.
Yeah, it can be really, really hard. And I think that, especially as their personality might change too, there's just, and like you said, things are so different. I think that practice of coming back to your body and your breath and acknowledging, even internally, because you probably can't explain it to this other person, and it maybe is not the best time if you could explain it to the other person what's going on. But to acknowledge that you do have these feelings, and that there's a place for them, and how you can move through them as you're doing your tasks with your person, and then making even a few moments for yourself when you can be away from them, so that you can let those feelings move through you. Because denying them, and it's like running a sprint of physically, when you're caregiving, you can only do that for a certain amount of time, and you can only deny and push down all those feelings for a certain amount of time. They're going to want to keep bubbling up. So yeah.
We do. We always do. You offer some really great things for people. Can you tell us what are those? I know you have the weekend retreats and classes and can give this great support for people. Tell us what that looks like.
Yeah, so right now I have a membership that has kind of two levels. It's a monthly membership. The first level is live and recorded classes. So the folks that I have in the membership now really like the time together, the live time together. I launched during COVID, and I think that might be why, that they like the idea of connection, and that I will come back to as well. And so they like the live classes, but the recordings of all of those classes go into a library and are available. So in addition to the hour-long classes, which we all had more time last year with COVID, many of us being at home and not being able to go anywhere, there are classes of a variety of lengths. So lots of 5 and 10-minute classes, and there's movement. I enjoy working with people who haven't practiced before. This isn't about putting your foot behind your head or anything like that. It's much more about, again, dropping into your body, feeling your body, and moving with what you have on the mat at any given time. So in addition to, yoga classes, there's breath work. There are hand postures, which are called mudras, which are a really nice thing to work into the day for a caregiver, because it's simply finding shapes with our hands. Really nice practices that actually nobody even needs to know what you're doing once you learn a few of these. So they're really beautiful. And we do things like self-massage and healing touch and acupressure, which I really like. So all these different tools are part of it. There's that base level, so live and recorded classes, and then the higher touch level includes community support. This group really wanted time together with other people in the community, so we have a book club and we have a online meetup once a month, and there's also an online community that's outside of Facebook as well, where folks can communicate.
Yeah, I love that community support.
Yeah, they really came to me with that. And I do also do live online and in-person retreats. And the online retreat, the first one that I did during COVID, I created time during our lunch hour. I created a Zoom session, and I thought, well, if you want to come in and talk while you're eating, you can. And I said, it's totally optional. Everyone came on and everyone sat and talked, and they loved to get to know each other like you would do sitting around a table at a restaurant or something. So yeah, I can see, and we know the importance of support from outside ourselves. So self-care is also about accepting support and encouragement from other people as well. And that's a big important part as that is also.
Yeah. Good reminder. Oh gosh, such a good reminder.
Yeah, we want to push that step away and say, I can do this, I can do it on my own. But again, there's that sense of softening and a sense of acceptance that comes into it when we can say, and maybe we don't even have to say out loud, I need help, but I could use a hand extended to me. However you want to put it. I mean, that sounds a little formal, right? That might not be the way you say it, but
accepting
yeah,
support, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Big one. So I'm sure so many people have been just impacted positively by you and what you're doing. Does one story stand out where someone really just had their life changed through your support?
Yeah, for sure. There's been a few people over the past year who, I always hesitate how to define myself, because yes, I do teach yoga, but I'm not a yoga teacher. And people hear, yoga teacher, and they have a certain picture of what that's supposed to be like. And, yoga is about union with other people, union with yourself, and making the time to do that, whether it's moving your body in a certain way or feeling your breath move in a certain way, and having time for quiet, which I know is challenging for a lot of people. And we really ease into that because it's really necessary for all of us. So a lot of people this past year came and said, I've never done this before. I don't know. I've heard about yoga. I've heard that it's good for me. I don't know anything about it. I'm really nervous. And I said, great, let's just try it out, because you can cancel at any time, but I'll show you what it's about. You can see what it's about, and you see how it's going to work for you. And in one case, I'm still working with a teacher at the time. She was a special needs, special ed teacher. And she just did not have the time for herself. She was at home taking care of a husband and a household and things, and then at work taking care of these. There were more than one. I think there was a handful of children throughout the day that had certain needs. She's a person that has lupus and arthritis, and knew she needed to do certain things to take care of herself, and it just wasn't happening. And she made the commitment to try some of the stuff, try some of the breathing. And that was the other thing too. Well, breathing, like now you're starting to get a little woo woo on me, but okay. And she's very open. I'm going to try it. And then as she tried it and felt better and kept coming back, she saw just massive changes in how she felt in her joints, with arthritis feeling better, and different other side effects that she has from lupus, feeling lighter all the way around. Yeah, really I can see a big change in her. And even in the way she moves more confidently now, which is like not even a thing that that's not a thing I would think about. But not only is she stronger, and I can see that, but I just have this different sense or a different air about her and the way she moves. And it's really wonderful to watch. Yeah.
What a testament to just putting that into practice and seeing what comes out of that, those positive effects.
Yeah, exactly. And when I hear people say like, oh, I had to have an MRI the other day and I used my breathing, or I had to go went through this challenging time. I had this challenging conversation with somebody, and I thought about my feet. I found my feet, or I noticed that I was holding my hands in this way that we've learned. The tools kind of, they get ingrained in you, and then they come back and they can serve you at the time when you most need them.
So cool. I love.
Yeah.
So, how are you doing today? How's your health? How's your husband? Before we say goodbye, I wanted to check in and see how you're doing.
Thank you. That's very sweet. Everything is great. I have, I'm feeling wonderful. I, get all my checkups, do all the things I'm supposed to do, and I'm feeling great. And the same thing with my husband. Yeah, surprisingly, he has just a lot of scar tissue from his burns, and so we try to get some massage in and help work some of that stuff. It's been years and years now, but that movement can really help him. And with a heart condition, that's something that you think about every single day. But we were able to, through this whole thing, I launched my my online business in Vermont after we moved during COVID. So now I'm in a different state, still the same distance from my dad. So I'm able to go and see him now, which is wonderful. But we're in a beautiful place where we have space, and we have pet cows, and a beautiful garden, vegetable garden, and being able to be outside is really important. I like to bring connecting with the outdoors, connecting with the cycles of the season, the cycles of the moon, to practice. That was a thing that was really disconnecting from me. I was either, in my house, my parents' house, or my car, my Jeep, for over a year. And, the only time I would think about the weather is it getting dark while I'm driving? Or like, do I have to put the shade down or turn my lights on, or the windshield wipers? I had really no idea of the seasons moving around me, and they have such an effect on us, right? Our moods and what we're able to do, and the connection and inspiration that is there inherently around us all the time, is something we can really draw upon. So that's a big part of the program also.
It is. Nature is so healing. And we just have to really be intentional about slowing down and being in its presence when we can.
Yeah, exactly. And, I'm very lucky with where we are. I know that there are people that are living in high rises in New York City and, you know, going to a window and feeling the sun on your face or noticing that it's raining outside, lifting your head from your phone or your laptop and noticing that it's raining. Um, Even just that, to take a moment to see changes, because that's the other thing too, things don't stay the same, and it can be frustrating and we can feel stuck in a resentment rut a lot of times as a caregiver. So knowing that things will change like the weather does can be helpful.
That is one thing that is ever changing, right? All the
Yes, for sure.
weather. We'll find out more about you. Where should we direct them?
So the best place to go is right to my website, and it's jobregnard.com. Just like my name, it's spelled just the way it sounds, JOBREGNARD.com. I'm sure you'll put a link in the show notes. And from there, they can actually get a free 5-day self-care mini retreat. I'll send 5 practices, one a day, to folks that want to join in on that. It's completely free. And there's a little bit of breath work, there are hand postures. There's a nice restorative yoga practice, which is all on the floor with pillows and blankets, like nap time. And there's also a yoga nidra practice or a yogic sleep practice, which is like a guided meditation. If you're having trouble falling asleep or you're looking for something to shift during like what would be a nap time in the afternoon, it's a nice practice to pop in and take a listen to. So they can check that out. Yeah, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm also on Clubhouse, all of those, Jo Bregnard. And on Clubhouse on Wednesdays, 11 a.m. Eastern time, I am with 2 other colleagues and we have a 20-minute room on Clubhouse, this new iPhone app, soon to be coming to other platforms as well. It's a 20-minute practice. It's a 20-minute room, 10 minutes of a practice. It's usually like a guided meditation or some simple breath work. I've done hand postures also. And then we chat for 10 minutes if you'd like, questions and answers, and just talk about how the practice went and what it feels like. You can listen in. Clubhouse, nothing's recorded there, so it's like attending a conference or something, or a workshop. Wednesday Wellness is the name of the room, and A Place for Wellness is the name of the club, the brand new club under which the Wednesday practice resides.
I'll look for you. I'm on Clubhouse as well.
Oh, good.
Been able to fully dive in yet, but it's been fun. I've been able to pop in a few rooms and conversations and just find it so interesting and fun to connect with people there.
Yeah, there's a lot of good caregiving
So I
stuff
have
out
to
there, which
tell
is
you about
wonderful. And it's,
Jimmy's
again,
and his
a
new
nice
company, Joe
place
and Bella.
for if
Our
you have a
paths had
few minutes,
crossed,
maybe you're
and I'm so
driving or
glad they
something.
did. It was
That's a
such a
nice place
pleasure
to
to meet
get
Jimmy.
some
He is passionate about
support
older
for
adults.
other people that
He
are
told
going
me
through
that
the same thing.
after
And you
both of
don't
his
need
grandparents
to
moved
talk
into
if
a
you don't
care
want to. You can just
community,
listen.
his family's world
Been so
was
fun.
turned upside
Yeah.
down, and
Well,
they
thank
really
you for your
became
time,
caregivers
for your
overnight.
thoughtfulness,
As you
and
know, being
your
a caregiver to someone
insight into your
close to you is
story and
often
caregiving and self
overwhelming.
care and
There's
all
so
of it.
much
It's
for you to
been really
manage, even
great to
with the
listen
support
to.
of a
Thank
care
you.
community,
Thank you, Nicole.
like making
So
sure your loved
wonderful
one has
to
all of
see
the
you and
products
get to
that they
speak with
need
you.
and
And
keeping them
again,
stocked when
I just
things
think what
run
you're doing
out,
is such a
keeping
service for this
inventory
community.
on
So
what
thank
you
you.
have and what you don't. Jimmy also had that problem, and he was scrolling through all of these product reviews across the internet. And like most of us in the sandwich generation, we don't have enough hours in the day. It can feel really overwhelming and time consuming and frustrating. We don't know what we're always looking for. And he wished there was a way to shop for his grandparents. Then the pandemic hit, preventing visitation to care communities, making this process even more difficult. So Jimmy decided to launch his own business to solve this problem. He founded Jo and Bella to make shopping for older adults simple. They carry everything from comfy clothes to creative gifts. They even have toiletries that can be automatically reordered and tech that makes caregiving easier. Everything all in one location. What I love, and I know you guys will love too, is that each and every product on Jo and Bella has been carefully selected by caregiving experts. Jimmy is so generous. He is giving an exclusive offer to our listeners of our podcast. You can use the promo code GATHER to receive 10% off your first purchase at joandbella.com. That code is GATHER, GATHER, for 10% off at joandbella.com. You don't want to miss this offer. Head to their website and check it out.
Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed our episode, please subscribe and give us 5 stars. In all honesty, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening to our episode.